late April. By 6 p.m., my badge wouldn't swipe. By Friday morning, my name was erased from the company directory, like I'd never existed. I'm Howard Brenner, I'm 52. I used to run strategic operations at Dane Global Industries, a $2 billion logistics and supply chain company based in New York. Used to being the key phrase. Here's how I went from their most valuable ops guy to unemployed in 48 hours. And here's how I walked back into their boardroom 6 months later holding a contract that gave me control of everything they'd tried to take away. Let me back up to that Thursday afternoon. I'd just finished a vendor compliance meeting when my assistant handed me a note. Marshall wants to see you. Conference room C. Now. No context. No explanation. Just the CEO summoning me. I wasn't worried. I'd been with Dane Global for 24 years. I knew every system, every major contract, every crisis we'd survived since I joined in 2001. When the 2008 financial crash hit and half the executive team was scrambling to save their own assets, I was the one keeping our operations from collapsing. I walked into conference room C. Marshall sat alone, sleeves rolled up, hands flat on the table. He didn't offer me a seat. We're bringing someone new into strategic operations, he said. No pleasantries. My son Bradley, I want you to train him for the VP role. Bradley Dane, 28 years old, MBA from some Tier 2 program, exactly 6 months of consulting experience at a firm that went under 3 months after he left. I'd met him once at the holiday party. He spent most of the night telling our head of logistics that traditional supply chain thinking was obsolete, while drinking something he kept calling an artisanal IPA. I kept my expression neutral. Marshall, he needs field experience first. Minimum 3 years before this kind of position. His jaw tightened. He's sharp. He has new perspectives. He's ready. He's not qualified. Dead silence. Nobody moved. Marshall's pen tapped once on his notepad. He nodded slowly. Clear your desk by end of day. That was it. No discussion. No warning. Done. I walked back to my office, tried logging into the system to forward some files to my personal drive. Password denied, tried again, denied. Called IT, voicemail, emailed HR, auto reply. By 6 p.m. my security badge wouldn't open the front door. I sat in my car in the parking lot at 9:30 p.m. that night, didn't go home, made a call instead. Victor Lang. We'd met 10 years back when we were on opposite sides of a merger negotiation. He was ex-military, logistics, and supply chain background, the kind of guy who could see problems before they happened. He'd left corporate 5 years ago to start a tech company. We stayed in touch, grabbed beers a few times a year to talk strategy. I told him what happened. You still working on that AI decision platform you mentioned? I asked. Opticore? Yeah, why? I'm available. Strategy, operations design, client relations, whatever you need. Starting tomorrow. He didn't ask questions. My office, Monday morning, 9 a.m. That weekend I made 2 more calls. One to a vendor partner who'd worked with me at Dane for 6 years. Another to a logistics consultant who'd been trying to recruit me since 2022. Both conversations ended the same way. Let's stay close. Things are about to shift. Monday morning, early May, I met Victor at his Brooklyn office. Small space, clean setup. He opened his laptop and walked me through Opticore's prototype. It was a strategic decision engine. AI-powered. The idea was to simulate executive-level judgment using predictive algorithms, market analysis, and real-time operational data. No committee meetings, no politics, no CEO's unqualified kid torpedoing a $250 million contract because he had a feeling. "What do you need?" I asked. "Someone who knows how companies actually work. Someone who's seen bad decisions up close and still made things function." I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. 4 months, I said. "Give me 4 months. We'll have 3 pilot clients and enough performance data to pitch the firms that matter." He smiled. "You always this confident right after getting fired?" I didn't get fired for being wrong. I got fired for being right. Different situation. We shook hands. By late May, we had our first pilot client, a mid-sized logistics consultancy that had been losing money for 2 straight quarters. Revenues around $40 million annually, but margins were collapsing. They'd been a Dane Global partner 4 years earlier. I'd worked with them directly on a major restructuring. They remembered. We implemented Opticore's system. Within 3 weeks, the platform identified vendor contract inefficiencies they'd completely missed. Saved them $140,000 in the first month. Annualized, that was close to $1.7 million. They were sold. We had validation. Word started spreading. By June, 2 more clients signed on, both small to mid-tier operations companies. Both wanted results without executive bloat. That's when I started hearing things about Dane Global. I wasn't stalking Dane Global, but I had people on the inside who still talked to me. Javier Ortiz was one of them. Veteran in vendor relations, someone I'd mentored for 8 years. He sent me a text around 11 p.m. on a Tuesday in late June. "Bradley's drowning. 3 client escalations this week. He told the Hendricks account they were thinking too small. They walked." I didn't reply, just noted it. The Hendricks account was worth $12 million annually. Automotive parts distribution. They'd been with Dane Global for 9 years. Solid relationship, steady revenue. Bradley had been in the VP role for maybe 3 weeks. A week later, another message from Javier: "We lost the pharmaceutical logistics contract." Bradley missed 2 client calls. Said he was strategizing. I could picture it. Bradley in his office with a whiteboard covered in buzzwords, thinking he was innovating while actual revenue walked out the door. By July, Opticore had 5 clients. All of them came through referrals. We weren't advertising. We were just delivering results, and people noticed. That's when Rachel Torres reached out via LinkedIn. She'd been a mid-level strategist at Dane Global, sharp analytical mind, completely underutilized. 2 years ago, they'd transferred her to some non-core project to make room for someone's nephew. "Heard you're doing something new," she wrote. "Any chance you're hiring?" We brought her on within a week. She understood operations the way good people do, not from textbooks, but from actually fixing problems. She fit into Opticore like she'd been there from the start. Turned out half the people I'd trained at Dane were quietly looking for exits. Bradley had made it clear he thought anyone over 40 was old school and resistant to disruption. He used that word a lot. Disruption. Meanwhile, Marshall kept promoting him. By early August, Bradley was Executive VP of Strategy. 4 months in the company. No performance metrics, no client wins, just elevation. I watched it from outside and felt nothing. They were making their choices. I was making mine. August was when things started falling apart publicly for Dane Global. They lost a major automotive contract, the one I'd personally closed back in 2019. The client called it strategic realignment. Industry translation. They had no confidence in current leadership. Then the real disaster hit. Dane Global had been pursuing a federal contract. Defense logistics. $280 million over 5 years, roughly $56 million annually. It was exactly the kind of project I used to manage. Multi-year timeline, strict compliance requirements, complex coordination across 6 agencies. Bradley took point on the pitch. This was late August, about 4 months after I'd left. According to Javier, who heard it from someone in the room, Bradley showed up to the final presentation with a slide deck about next-generation supply chain thinking and disrupting traditional models. The agency reps asked basic questions: compliance protocols, risk mitigation frameworks, contingency planning for supply interruptions. Bradley couldn't answer. He delegated those sections to a junior analyst who wasn't even present. He actually said, "We're focusing on innovation, not legacy processes." They lost the contract. $280 million, gone. The agency went with a competitor who understood that federal work requires precision, not buzzwords. 2 weeks later, a trade journal ran a story. Dane Global faces leadership challenges amid strategic transition. Corporate speak for everything's on fire. The article mentioned talent exodus, missed contracts, declining client confidence. It quoted an anonymous industry source saying the company seems to have lost its operational foundation. That source wasn't me. Didn't need to be. The numbers spoke for themselves. Dane's stock started dropping, not catastrophically, but steady, down 8% in 3 weeks. Shareholders started asking questions at board meetings. By September, OptiCore had 7 clients, mid-sized firms, mostly logistics and supply chain operations. We weren't chasing Fortune 500 companies. We were building a reputation with companies that needed real solutions. One of those clients was Northridge Logistics. I'd worked with them 6 years earlier during my Dane days, helped them restructure their way out of near bankruptcy. Their regional partner called me directly. "We're evaluating some contract restructuring options. You still consulting?" "I'm with OptiCore now," I said. "Send me the details." They signed within a week. 3 months later, they'd cut operational costs by 18% and expanded into 2 new regions. They started recommending us to other firms. That's how you build momentum. One result at a time. No press releases, just performance. By late September, Dane Global's problems weren't inside information anymore. They were public record. Stock down 14% from its April peak. Senior talent leaving in clusters. Operational costs up 19% while revenue was flat. Client satisfaction surveys showing steep drops. Marshall called an emergency board meeting. I heard about it through industry channels. The company was bleeding. Not dying yet, but hemorrhaging. That's when the call came. Early October, it came through OptiCore's business inquiry form, a formal request from Dane Global's board liaison. They wanted to discuss strategic operational consulting and performance optimization solutions. Victor forwarded me the email. Subject line, "Interesting development." I read it twice. Professional language, polite urgency, no names mentioned except the board liaisons. "They don't know I'm involved?" I asked Victor. "Your name's nowhere on our public materials. I'm listed as founder and CEO. You're internal. Far as they know, you vanished." I sat back. This was it. The moment I'd built toward without forcing. They were reaching out because the numbers gave them no choice. "Set the meeting," I said. "In person. Their office. I'll attend as strategic advisor." "You sure about walking back in there?" "I'm not walking back," I said. "I'm walking in as someone they need." The meeting was set for 2 p.m. on a Thursday in mid-October, 6 months after they'd fired me. I arrived at 2:07 p.m. Late, on purpose. Let them get settled. Let them think they were in control. The Dane Global building looked exactly the same. Same lobby, same security desk, same elevators. The guard didn't recognize me. Why would he? I'd been erased. Conference room C, the same room where Marshall had fired me. Long glass table, high ceilings, bottles of water with the Dane Global logo, some kind of poetic symmetry there. Marshall sat at the far end, Bradley on his right, their CFO, a guy named Richard Moss, on the left. 2 board members I recognized sat across from them. One was an older man in a navy blazer, Gerald Pitts, who'd been on the board since 2015. The other was a woman in her 50s, Andrea Coleman, brought on last year for her finance background. Victor and our legal counsel were already seated. They looked up when I entered but didn't react. I walked to the empty chair beside Victor, set down my folder, and sat. Bradley glanced over. His eyes passed over me, then snapped back. He froze. His face went pale, but he didn't say anything. Marshall was mid-sentence, something about exciting opportunities for operational partnership. Corporate autopilot. His voice was steady, but his hands were gripping the table edge. Victor started the presentation. Clean, professional. He walked through OptiCore's platform capabilities, our client track record, the performance metrics from our 7 current engagements. Bradley kept stealing glances at me. I stayed still. No expression, just presence. Then Marshall turned his head. Saw me, really saw me. The change happened slow. Confusion first, then recognition, then something that looked like his brain short-circuiting. "Howard." He said it quietly, almost like he wasn't sure I was real. I didn't answer immediately. Let the silence sit there. Bradley's hands were gripping his notepad now. The confident posture he'd walked in with was completely gone. Victor kept presenting, unfazed. We're prepared to finalize pilot terms today if all parties are aligned. Marshall cleared his throat twice. Howard, you're with Opticore? Strategic advisor, I said. Calm, direct. I joined in May. You could see him processing it. The math, the timeline, the implications. Gerald Pitts, the board member in the Navy blazer, leaned forward. He'd been quiet the whole meeting. Forgive me, he said, but I'm unclear on something. Mr. Brenner, why are you no longer with Dane Global? Marshall didn't answer. Neither did Bradley. The silence stretched out. I looked at Pitts, met his eyes. I was terminated in April after declining to train someone for a senior role they weren't qualified for. Pitts nodded once, slow. He didn't ask for elaboration. Didn't need to. Andrea Coleman, the other board member, was watching Marshall now. Her expression hadn't changed, but something had shifted. Victor slid the contract folder across the table. The pilot program is